everyone. Pull up a chair and get comfy.
Oh, girl, have we got stories to tell you all. The Never Alone podcast is about to begin, and you don't want to miss a minute.
Hi, and welcome back to our Never Alone podcast. I'm Iris Fisher-Smith, your host, and here I am again with my very special guest tonight. My brother Alan has come back with us, and he's come back with us to talk about history. Alan and I love history, and we just love to review all kinds of history from the 1940s, 50s, 60s, whatever. And so, Alan, let's get into this. We're going to be talking about, to start off with, the Truman and Marshall Plan to 1948. So that's what we're going back to. It's 1947 to 1948. And we're just going to be talking about what you know about the Truman and Marshall Plan. And before you tell us about it, can you explain a little bit about how you know about that? What kind of research have you done? Was any of it ever in high school? Or has this been mainly in your adult years?
When I was little, I was a big, I used to play a lot of war games. And war games are usually based in history, historic games. I remember obviously chess is, goes back to, a couple thousand years. So that's history.
That's years old, Alan?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't know that. Tell us a little bit about that. Where did it come from?
I think it came from China. I could look that up. I wasn't prepared for that question. When we said history, go back to like the year one. First, the Earth was formed. Then
we do like history.
Then the water formed. Then we got.
Okay. Oh my goodness! Well, let's fast forward.
A couple of thousand years ago, I think it was China.
Yeah,
they had a game like chess.
Yeah,
or Europe, maybe the Roman Empire or something like that. I could look it up. But between those two civilizations, I'm sure the Middle East came into that. Somewhat. Also in Africa. But it's been around a real long time, a couple millenniums at least. And
well,
like I said,
I was going to say to you, you brought me back a chess set when you were in the service from the Philippines. It was from the Philippines, so clearly they're involved.
I bought it in Taiwan, but yeah, not to correct you or anything.
Taiwan, the Philippines. What's the difference?
Taiwan was a nice place. Very good artisans there. The Philippines too, but Taiwan, for most of at one time, it was the great artisans. They're very talented.
Well, my grandson Oliver he's going to be 6, and he loves playing chess. He's very bright, and he's picking it up pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't expect that at his age, and he's doing it. Do you remember when you started playing chess, Alan? How old you were?
I was really, really young, maybe like 9 years old.
Okay, so
9,
Oliver's
10
younger.
to. What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Oliver's younger.
Yeah.
Daddy liked playing chess. Our father liked playing chess, so he needed somebody to play with.
Yeah. He always likes to have somebody. He loved that.
I got good enough to actually letter in chess in high school. I was on the chess team. You remember that?
I do remember, and I was telling Oliver that you were on the chess team. And I told him, I said, as you get older and you're interested in chess still, you can go on to a chess team. They have them in school. And he said, wow. So he's going to pursue that, He said he's a thinker.
It was set up like any other sport. You had 5 starters, and you had a couple guys coming up the bench if they needed them. It worked.
Yeah.
It was I enjoyed myself. I went to chess tournaments. I took all day. Everybody was exhausted by the end of the day and stuff. And we took it seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a real thinking game. You have to be really smart to do that. And I remember you were smarter than you thought you were,
Whatever.
Because you were good at
anyway. Your son was doing run for my money, but he plays a lot more than than I do.
Yeah.
But no excuses. Well,
You mean my son Paul?
yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
good. He's a good player.
Yeah.
He
is.
underestimated me once, and I ended up beating him the first time we played. I think it was in your older house, but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so
I was just going to say that, yeah, chess is a big game that, you know, it's a real thinking game. And a lot of people don't have patience for it. But my grandson does at his age, which is very surprising. But I'm delighted to see it, you know. But anyhow,
it teaches critical thinking.
yeah, it does. Yep. And it gives them, you know,
And how that
rolling.
that was, but that was the very first war game I ever played. But the other games were when I was very young. Milton Bradley had these games called, they were historic games.
Yeah.
And then, one game was called Hit the Beach. It was a World War II, War in the Pacific game.
Yeah.
And Dogfight was a World War
remember
I
that.
aviation
Yeah.
aviation game. Me and Daddy played all these games. And a Battle Cry was a Civil War reenactment. And my favorite one was a game called Broadside.
I remember that.
And that was a War of 1812 between ships. And every time you would,
the little
cross the T.
You had to put the flags on top of them and the sail.
The masts. If you lost all your masts, you'd lose the ship.
Do they still have that game around?
I actually bought it a few years ago. I paid a lot of money for it. I think I have it somewhere, but I rebought it. I bought a couple of the games.
Yeah, yeah.
I went on the there's a website that deals with old board games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's
Anyway,
where your interest started, right? Was with playing games, which got you interested in history. And so one of the things you wanted to talk about tonight, which is one of your favorite topics, is back in 1947 to 1948, the Truman and Marshall Plan. Explain what that is, what that whole thing is about, and history, the history that surrounds it.
Well, it's post-World War II, and there was a big mess, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was a big mess, all right.
So it was a big mess. It was a terrible mess. They needed somebody to clean it up. So what this dates back to is it was a solution to put Europe back together and defend against have Western Europe defended against the communist bloc, Russia, and all the Soviet Union's satellite states.
Yeah.
These two plans, the Truman Doctrine and the Marshall Plan, were the 1-2 punch of getting the post-war Europe put back together with through the Marshall Plan, and we needed to defend Western Europe from, like I said, the Soviet bloc. So that was the Truman Doctrine. Pretty much dealt with that, establishing NATO. What was so unique about those two things was World War II was handled the exact opposite of World War I. With the Marshall Plan, we invested like $15 billion in post-war Europe. We just gave them all this money, and they did what they needed to do to, especially Germany and France, the whole McGill. It was all, especially Germany though. It was just a pile of rubble. You look at Germany now; it was money well spent. And they did pay us back.
What does that mean? But it was money well spent.
Well, okay, I'll come at it this way. World War I, at the end of World War I, we punished Germany.
Yeah, I was going to about that. What's the difference?
The Allies punished Germany through the Treaty of Versailles. And it really it made Germany destitute. They couldn't afford anything. Then the Great Depression came, and it really opened up Germany to a rightward shift. They're looking for anybody to make Germany great again. Right? I mean, Hitler was so mad. What's that?
He sounded mad. He sounded darn mad. He was misbehaving. It was terrible. Woof.
the old Weimar Republic, which was it was a very liberal government at the time, really struggled under the the sanctions and the reparations that Germany had to pay. So that government fell and it left a hole for Adolf Hitler moving with his fascist goons.
Yeah.
So if we had handled it differently, if maybe the U.S. at the time had joined the League of Nations, and we had spread out the pain a little bit more, between the Western Allies and the Axis powers. I don't know, they were called the whatever they were called, between Germany and Austria and stuff. Anyway, those guys got nailed for a lot of they actually the reparations were paying back the Allies because it cost so much to fight World War One.
Right.
So they Germany shouldered the whole burden. In any event, they did the exact opposite between the World War II. We rebuilt Japan. We didn't just stomp on them. We did flatten the place. A couple of atomic bombs, but we invested a lot of money between Germany and Japan to rebuild those economies so that they could have stable governments.
Was this all from, excuse me, let me interrupt you for 1 second. Was this all in 1947 and 1948 that you're still kind of talking about?
Well, it was through 1949, post-war, post-war years is like 46 to 49.
Well, I wanted to ask you another question. Where did the name Marshall Plan come from? Help us to understand what
George
that means.
C. Marshall.
Okay.
George C. Marshall. He was the Secretary of State at the time.
So that's where Marshall Plan came in.
Yeah, President Truman had his doctrine.
Yeah.
Like the Monroe Doctrine or whatever. The Monroe Doctrine, just stated way back in the 1800s that the Western Hemisphere is ours.
Yeah.
So that's anyway. Yeah, but we've had 80 years of relative. We've had no world wars. Since then.
Right.
We had like back-to-back world wars. In the early 20th century, because we didn't deal with the problems the same way from World War One to World War II.
Right.
But we've had.
Well, I was just going to say to you, how is it pertinent what happened in 1947 and 1948, and then the World War II sort of came to a close in what year?
1945.
1945.
That was VE Day.
Okay,
Victory in Europe. Right. Then VJ Day was in August.
So
VJ Day was victory in Japan.
Please excuse this brief interruption for a shameless commercial. Remember, you can get your own copy of Iris's book, Never Alone, at irisfsmith.com.
How did what happened back then in our country, how is it pertinent to us today? And how can we compare what we're going through now with what happened back then? Do you see any correlation?
We've had post-war, since the post-war, after World War II, the world as it is today is much richer than it was prior to World War II, with all the factions and the infighting and everything else.
Yeah.
We're pretty much... we're working on like a one world system that has, universal trade. The arguments nowadays are not over in the big scale of things. We have our problems between Ukraine and the Middle East, but those are small problems compared to like a world war.
Yeah. Everybody looks at the different generations, Alan, and they compare and they go, wow, this is really, really hard and bad and whatever. Back in the 1930s, our grandmothers talked about how things were so bad back then. They wondered about the future of their children, right? In the 1960s, you had the hippie movement coming in and then the Vietnam War and all these things. And people wondered again, oh, what's going to happen to our kids? right? And now we're doing the very same thing. So my conclusion with that is every single generation has own, and there's really nothing new under the sun, is there?
Right. Unless you can, work out, deals like the Marshall Plan or the Truman Doctrine, post-war,
Yeah.
Post-war Europe and in Asia.
Yeah. So I guess that answers my question. Does it influence our country today what happened back then? And I think you were saying, right?
Yes, as far as what?
Well, just the things that happened back in the, when the World War II ended and things turned around, and then you had this Truman and Marshall Plan in 1947 and 1948. Okay, is what the decisions that we made back then still affecting us today? That was my question. I just wondered about it.
Certainly.
Mhm.
Certainly is. Stemming from that, that set off the United States to be the preeminent. It cost us $15 billion, but after World War II, we became the preeminent world power. Between China and Russia, they don't even touch us as far as economic might. You know what I mean? Even
Sounds like
Soviet
a
Union.
chess game.
But we spent for $15 billion, $160 billion in today's dollars.
Yeah.
We got paid back many times over.
Yeah.
Just through stability.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about President Truman, what you know about him. How long was he in office? Was he in wasn't he in one term?
Yeah, he was 2 terms. People didn't really like him too much on the second term. He had terrible approval ratings. He was a good president, though. He was a great president. He was FDR's vice president.
Okay,
So he took over. Right. He was from Missouri. He worked in the haberdashery. Before he went to politics, he sold hats.
Oh, that's what that was. Okay, I was going to ask you, what is that?
I read a book on him. He's a very impressive person. He came up from nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about his history. That's interesting. He started out, I mean, what year? He was president during what years? Do you remember?
Right. He took over for FDR in 45 when FDR died. Then he was reelected in, I believe, 48.
Okay, so that's during the Truman Marshall Plan era. Okay. Yep. That makes
Right?
sense. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did 2 terms. So what year did he end his final term? Do you remember?
1952.
Okay, 52. And then at that point, I bet it was Eisenhower that came in.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, I know my history too a little.
There you go. You were there.
I was born in 59.
Right. Right?
I wasn't even thought of yet. I don't think you were either.
Nope.
What year were you born?
Anyway, I was born in 62.
62.
Mm-hmm.
1962 you were born, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And you're 2 years older than me.
Right.
Yeah, I was born in 59. Let's try 1957.
Right. Yeah.
Alan didn't really tell his real age. So wants me to call him my little brother.
Right.
Oh,
sorry, I'm stretching.
That's all right. Go stretch. Well, that's another thing we can talk about. In the early 60s, we had Jack LaLanne on TV. Remember him?
Right?
Do you
I
remember
do.
him? What was he all about before you remember?
He lived through a ripe old age. He died not too long ago, maybe like 5-6 years ago or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Who was he?
He swam the English Channel.
Start telling us a little bit about Jack LaLanne and what he did and what that was all about for people that don't have a clue who he was.
He was a guy on TV at the time. I guess he was on a few times a day, or maybe every time we went over to Bubby's house,
Who's
it
Bubby?
seemed like, he was on the TV.
Back in the early 1960s with a little television set.
Right? And it was the volume was turned all the way up.
At our grandmother's house because she couldn't hear.
Right.
I'm starting to relate to that as I get older. Turning up the volume.
I'm sorry. I have an itchy eye.
You can have an itchy eye.
It's face.
I hope your iris is okay.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, right.
You've never heard that before.
But anyway, Jack LaLanne was somebody that I remember from history. He was one of the first guys, as far as I can remember, who had an exercise show for housewives. He was on in the morning. And I can remember as a little kid, our mother would be cleaning, and then she would turn on Jack LaLanne and stop and start exercising with him. And he was like this. He was like really in good shape, you know?
Yeah, big arms.
Yeah. So that was during the early 1960s. And I think he did it until maybe 1967. And then he wasn't on the air so much, but then you would see him come in periodically in different shows all the way up to the 90s. I was into the, 1998 until he passed away. Why don't you GPT chat, ask when he passed away, Jack LaLanne, and how old he was. He was pretty amazing.
Okay.
He was the very first one that inspired people to get into shape and how exercise was and diet and everything. He was the first guru that way. And then you had, guys follow after him. Richard Simmons was another one. He was good too.
Jack LaLanne history.
From Truman to Jack LaLanne.
He was born in 1914.
Okay.
In 1936, at age 21, he opened the first modern health spa in Oakland, California.
Okay. I think I remember him talking about it on his show.
Doctors actually advised patients to stay away from his gym, claiming that lifting weights would cause heart attacks and muscle-bound loss of flexibility.
Boy, that was
stupid.
information that was not correct.
That did not age well.
Alan, talk about fake news.
Right? There you go.
They even had it back
Media trailblazer. In 1959, the Jack LaLanne show debuted in 1951.
Yeah.
It was on TV for 34 years.
That long? Okay, wow, I didn't realize that. Okay, so when our mother was watching it, he had already been around at least 10, 12 years.
At age 40, he swam the length of the Golden Gate Bridge underwater with 140 pounds. So he was just amazing.
With 100,
You cannot just swim in the Golden Gate, underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. The tides are incredible. It would kill a normal person would die.
and what did
At
he
age
do?
60, he swam from Alcatraz. He swam from Alcatraz to Fisherman's Wharf, handcuffed, shackled, and towing a 1,000-pound boat. What the hell? I didn't even know that.
Well, you know what, Alan? Houdini had nothing on him, boy.
At age 70, handcuffed and shackled, he towed 70 boats. He towed while he was handcuffed. He
At
towed
70
70
years
boats with
old?
70 people. Yeah. He
Wow.
towed 70 boats with 70 people on 1.5 miles in Long Beach Harbor, right near Lance.
Yeah. Right near our brother. Yeah. Our other brother lives in Long Beach. That's what Alan was referring to. Isn't that amazing that he had that kind of strength at 70 years old? He puts a lot of us to shame. We need to start exercising, Alan.
Right?
We need to stop
Modern
complaining.
science has finally caught up. Modern science has finally caught up to his 1930s theories. Muscle is a primary driver of metabolic health and blood sugar regulation.
Right. Wow. And there's so many opinions on that, It's
Mhm.
crazy, So I mainly want.
He had it completely right.
Yeah, he did. He had a lot of wisdom. He had a lot of drive. He was an incredible influence for not just women back then, but families in general. It was her, the
Mhm.
determination, what we can do by just being determined, I mean, the
Mhm.
old saying
Right?
that if we don't move around, we lose it is so true.
Yeah.
Every guy in history that has, encouraged us with exercise and fitness has always said the same thing. You have to move. You have to keep moving,
Minimum.
especially,
Yep.
because if we don't move,
Especially.
yeah, we lose all our muscle tone. It's terrible. I
Mhm.
drag myself
Mhm.
to the fitness center at least 4 times a week, at least, and try to stretch. Because something else as we
And
get
j-
older, we lose muscle mass,
Mhm.
we lose our ability
Mhm.
with the tendons and the joints are starting to deteriorate. But if we can keep
Mhm.
moving, you can lessen that. And, some supplements like collagen and stuff like that helps too. What are your thoughts on that?
Mhm. Yeah, exercise and nutrition.
Yeah.
Food,
What do
food
you
is
think?
medicine.
Yeah.
What's that?
You were jogging for the longest time. You were always running. And I'll never
Mhm.
forget that it was Easter Sunday and you were looking for your wife. Do you remember this story?
Okay.
I need to tell this
Right?
story. Yeah. You were running through the
We
park.
haven't covered this.
No, I don't think so. It's in my book, though.
Not on the
I
show.
talked, yeah.
Right.
But anyway, I remember Alan telling me this story about he was in California at the time. He was newly married to his wife, Bunny. This is way back in the 1980s, correct?
Yeah, about 100 years ago.
100 years ago, yes. During Moses, he knew Moses. But anyway, so Alan's running through the park without his glasses, and he's running and running, and he's looking around. He can't see a darn thing. And he's looking for his wife, and here it is, Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday,
It was cold. It was cold. It was cold. It was cold and foggy
it was cold. You
at
didn't
the
have your
Bay Area.
glasses, and you didn't have your
Right.
glasses. And so you're running through the
Mhm.
park, and it's Easter Sunday, and you're yelling what? What is your
Bunny.
wife's name?
My wife's
Yeah.
name.
Bunny.
Bunny.
He's running through a park on Easter Sunday yelling Bunny. And all the people,
Everybody else has overcoats, and I
Oh.
had shorts and I was a suede T-shirt.
right. But the point is, it was Easter Sunday, and you were running around the park yelling Bunny. What kind of looks were you getting?
Like I was a nut. I was, sitting there, sweating, and nobody caught. I found her again because without my glasses, especially in the fog, completely blind.
Alan lives in a sitcom because, I mean, how many people would be in a position like that with a wife named Bunny on Easter Sunday? I mean, what are the odds of that, right?
I realized what I was doing that after about 2 or 3 bunnies.
Yeah. So this is something that we talk about. We talk about how we love history, and we talked a little bit about the Truman and Marshall Plan and how chess was discovered, and we've covered a number of different topics. But we couldn't help but talk about our own family history, which is like living in a sitcom. We grew up with all these funny stories, and we couldn't help but interject the Easter Sunday bunny story of Alan looking for his bunny, his wife.
The funny thing was when I realized what I was saying,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you didn't.
I finally put 2 and 2 together. Yeah, and I just said, what the hell am I doing?
I'm sure everybody else was thinking the same thing. What the hell is he doing? Well, anyway,
Is there a bunny with a bunch of eggs going to jump out of the bushes or something? Bunny.
my goodness, what a story. And we have much more to share another time. But each time I bring my brother Alan on, it's a joy because we love, as I said, to talk about history, but not only world history, but also our family's history. And we do happen to think our family history is funny. It's just stuff that happened that you couldn't make it up, So we want to thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you so much, Alan, for coming on and, giving me a few laughs as you always have. And I want to remind you that you're not my younger brother, you're my older brother. You were born in 1957, not 1962.
Everybody always asks me, between me and Lance, who's the older one?
Between you and the brother, our other brother is about 7 years younger than me. Yeah,
10 years younger than me.
that's right. Yeah. He looks young. And
Yeah.
you look young. And I look young.
Well,
We all look young.
it always it aggravates them, though, when people say, who's younger.
And you're 10 years apart.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's a compliment to you, that's for sure.
I like to aggravate him. He's fun.
But that's for another segment.
Right.
Anyway, I want to thank you all for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our time with us, and we hope you'll enjoy us again and come back with us next time. And if you like what we're doing and you enjoy, listening to us, we hope you are, like and share and comment. And, we hope to see you again. Thanks for being with us. Bye-bye.
Wow, that was awesome, wasn't it?
I know those stories were really something.
Hey, thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time when we share more stories from Iris's book, Never Alone.
Order your copy of Never Alone at irisfsmith.com today.